Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother?
Walaikum assalam warahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Awesome.
So,
Yeah,
Ramadan
so
Mubarak.
and to you. Ramadan
Thank
Mubarak
you.
to you.
Thank
Ramadan
you.
Kareem.
So let's get some barakah of this Ramadan. Wanted to try to talk about what's going on in the world, particularly financially. And I know that this is something that you find very interesting. Talk about the situation and what we can do about it.
Wow, that's a pretty big question. Yeah, let's dive into it. There's a lot going on in the world. I think the way I see it, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Um, there are moves being, you're hearing stories about bank failures. You're hearing stories about Saudi Arabia aligning with China and Brazil. What's going on? And then you hear stories about currency wars and the dollar collapsing.
Isn't that always
Um,
happening, though? I mean, isn't the sky always falling in a sense?
yeah, and that's how they, the establishment, and to kind of put it down, I would call the establishment the elites,
Okay.
who are in bed. The very well-to-do or the very wealthy people like the Bill Gates of the world, in bed with the politicians, guiding policy and legislation to their profit.
Okay.
That's who I call they. And then there are even families above that are kind of guiding things. Now, we don't want to get too conspiratorial here, but at the end
Sure,
of the
sure.
day,
But everyone knows the
and
Rothschilds, etc.
yes, exactly, and the
Yeah.
Rockefellers, and
Right, right.
to really bone up on them, I would highly suggest our listeners go to the Corbett Report, James Corbett,
Okay. Nice.
Corbe. We'll put the link in the notes
Not the
below.
not the Colbert Report.
The Colbert Report. No, 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 not the
No,
Colbert.
no, not
The
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 Colbert.
Corbett report. Yeah, no,
Corbett. Yeah,
exactly. And I made that mistake. I made that mistake
that's
too.
fine.
I went to the Corbett. I'm like, wow, this is weird.
Yeah.
He's dancing with like these women.
Right.
That's not. So the Corbett
Not your
report,
Ramadan special.
yeah, very
Yeah.
informative,
Okay.
and he talks about CBDCs and he talks about a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. So, okay, so why is this time particularly like problematic and like what should we be like looking out for, I guess?
I would say that the the premonition of it was in 2008.
Okay.
And before 2008, I left Wall Street in 2007. So I was on Wall Street for 15 years.
Mm.
And I was in banking, I was in technology, and I was seeing a lot of the machinations, if you will, of how the greedy and the elite usurp um, capital and take from society. And it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor; they're there to enrich themselves, and that's really one of the reasons why I left. I got a great excuse. It was a personal issue in my life. Got a great excuse to leave in 2007, and it was almost pre-telling because the next year, the 2008 crisis
SubhanAllah.
occurred.
Wow.
Yeah, subhanallah. And so I thought that was it.
Okay.
So the writing on the wall for me
Yeah.
was how um, the elites are enriching themselves to the expense of the middle class and even the at-risk communities.
Oh, and
And they
and
want,
just, sorry to jump in, but like, that's always going to be the case of like taking advantage, right? But as I understand it, basically, there's a storm on the front such that like normal is not going to be normal. Almost kind of like, that we've seen a lot of shifts from 2020 and the things that have happened. Is it going to be, I feel like that kind of change where it's like, normal assets are not going to hold the same value and we really have to like significantly change? Or is this more of a thing of like, well, you need to save a little bit more, be a little bit more conscious?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I'm not going to sound a death knell here or an alarm. We're all aware of where society is going and
Right.
the coming of the Dajjal.
Right.
And
Exactly.
while that's in
Exactly.
our backdrop, exactly, while that's in our backdrop, and we know that is there to keep us honest and to keep us on the straight and narrow as Muslims and
Sure.
as people of the world, as everybody,
Of
because
course.
I talk to a lot of my Christian brothers and
Mhm.
sisters, and they're
Yep.
also saying, "Oh my God, we're in this end of
Exactly.
time situation."
Correct.
So, but I don't think we should live our lives that way. I think we should
Correct.
live our lives as if, things are going to be fine.
Hmm.
It's not going to happen in our lifetimes. We
Hmm.
need to keep creating, and while implement some defensiveness in our lives,
Yeah,
financially, homewardly, food wise,
sure.
um, still stay on track and keep creating.
Sure. And
Keep doing.
I don't know that things are gonna be fine because I don't think that things are gonna be fine. I mean, I am an optimist, but I do think things could probably get a little bit scary. So it's kind of a
They
hope
can.
for the best, plan for the worst situation. But to your point, there's a tradition that if the day of judgment comes, right, if the sun rises and you're planting a tree, finish
That's right.
planting that tree. I think that's what
That's
you're getting at.
correct. That's
Okay.
exactly what I'm getting at. So
Okay.
keep doing it, and keep
All
keep 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 creating, and don't get into this like, okay, I need to build a bunker, and
right. Right.
that's what the elites are doing. They're building bunkers and they're hunkering
True.
down. We
True.
don't really need to do that.
Correct.
We should be mindful of what's happening around us.
There.
Tie our camel, the proverbial
Exactly.
tie our camel, so to speak, and be
Right.
ready for this onslaught. And we've been given the cheat notes. We know
Exactly.
that this
Exactly.
is coming down. We've been given the cheat notes in the Quran, in the Hadith, to
Right.
say, okay, well, this is how you should be living. The
Right.
Dajjal is going to come with food, and
Right.
do not take the food from them. And so, what are you
Mm,
supposed to do in the meantime? And so, we
mm.
just need to set ourselves up for that.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
again, getting back to 2008, I thought that
Mhm.
was it. And so in 2008, I essentially started planning and prepping.
Okay.
And one of the preppings that I started doing, and we can talk about this in another episode if you want.
Sure.
One of the things that I started doing is I started buying silver.
Right.
Why did I start buying silver? Well, I thought
Right.
we were entering into a commodities bull market, and it was a race for resources.
So sorry, and I'm relative. I feel like I'm not great with money, and so some of these terms, bull market, all that. Let's just flesh that out a little bit. Like commodities bull market. What does that actually mean?
So, what you'll find, and this is how I've invested, personally speaking, what you'll find is that every era has its run.
Okay.
So, over the last 20 years, it was real estate.
Right.
If you
Okay.
invested in real estate 20 years ago, or maybe
Sure.
even earlier, but
Right.
still, I mean, even if you invested 50 years ago, of course, you would have made a lot of
Yeah.
money. But really, it actually began around 20 years ago when, if you had invested money 20 years ago in real estate, you would have
Yeah.
made out, it would have been the perfect time to invest in real estate.
Well,
And
wasn't Manhattan sold for a quarter at one point? Someone told me that, and
no, yeah, no,
way
they
back
began
when
to
I'm talking
sell.
about.
Yes, yes, yes. They began to sell. I remember Rockefeller Center got sold to the Japanese.
Oh,
And they said that it's not going to be called the Rockefeller Center, it's going to be called Hirohito Center.
Hirohito.
That's right. And this was around the 80s. But it was a great, great buy. Real
Wow.
estate has never been the same. And
Okay, so
so
now what's the current? Like basically, you're saying that the run is shifting. That there's a different
the
team
run is
there's a
shifting.
different dynasty that's coming into play, and
There's
that's
a
silver.
different era. There's a different
Okay,
cycle coming into
sure.
play.
Okay.
And that cycle is sort of like a consolidation by nations,
Hmm.
by countries, of their resources. And
Okay.
so you'll see, China will never sell their gold
Okay.
abroad. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
this with their resources, and you're going to start to see nationalization, which
Mm-hmm.
is America may also say, "Oh, we want to hoard our gold mines and keep everything that we produce in
So
state."
who's with the signs on the street? We buy your gold. That's what I want. Is that the Chinese or is that the American? Like, have you seen those? People on the side like we buy
Yes,
gold.
I have seen
Yeah.
this. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Well,
So.
that's a premonition, another premonition, and you see those more often nowadays.
Okay. Okay.
I started seeing those 10 years ago, but then it was a fake. It was a sort of a fake out. The
Oh, I see.
2008 was a sort of a fake out, and
Pump fake test trial.
I, I fell for it too. I fell for
Oh.
it also, and I
Mm,
started buying silver. And then what happened was silver rose, and it rose.
mm,
Gold and silver rose. They rose
mm.
drastically. They went vertical, and then
Okay.
they fell off a cliff.
Mm,
And so that was sort of it was sort of a fool's. But after that fall off,
mm.
what happened was the corporates lost control, the public gained control,
Okay.
and
Thank you, Reddit.
I
But
don't, I don't want to get into too, I don't want to
no,
get
no,
into too
let's
detail.
not go down that
Yeah, yeah.
path.
I mean,
Yeah.
no, Wall
Yeah.
Street Silver. It's a recent creation.
Okay.
But absolutely, what happened was during that 2008 crisis, people like me
Mhm.
thought that the world was ending. Proverbially, the world was ending.
Okay.
Not really ending, but in terms of
Economic reality of the way things are
that's right.
running, it's going to be
So
different. Okay.
we need to get defensive. We need to get
Okay.
defensive with our
Sure.
wealth. We need to start tying our camel.
Okay.
And so a lot of the public began buying gold and silver.
Mm.
Um, Mostly silver. Public buys people buy silver.
Okay.
The governments buy gold.
Okay.
But we can get into that discussion a little later. And so
Sure.
when I saw that writing on the wall, when I saw some internal reverberations toward that, I started buying, and a lot of people started buying, and it caught some of the elites off guard, the control
Oh.
politicians off guard, and it rose up, and they then
Oh.
suppressed the price.
So they were like, just kidding. That does that, fire alarm doesn't
Yes,
mean get ready for the fire. They that
that's
was
right.
just a demo. They almost wanted to announce that. I
And
see.
it was a way for them to, again, they're in full control.
Okay.
They have unlimited amounts. They have infinite amounts of money, so they can do whatever they want. So they can sell if they only have 10 ounces of gold in their bank account.
Yeah.
The way the financial system is set up, and this is I've
Yeah.
seen this firsthand,
Yeah.
is they will sell that 10 ounces a
Uh-huh.
hundred times over.
To themselves, basically, right? Aren't they just playing catch, like selling it to
They'll
their
sell it to
third
you.
entity?
No,
Yeah. Oh, they'll
so
sell it to you.
you'll
Okay.
come as an entity, big
Sure.
or small, it doesn't matter, and you
Okay.
say I want some gold. They say yeah, I've
Okay.
got it, and they'll
Okay.
sell you it's like fractional reserve banking, so of which we can define. They'll
Okay.
sell you the gold,
Okay.
and they say, "Oh, yeah, I want 10." And then you come and somebody else comes and they say, "Yeah, we've got it." And we'll say, but they'll never actually give it to you. They'll give you a chit.
Oh, they
They'll
sell
give
you
you
a
a
piece of
chit.
paper. Yeah.
Yes. And so the ETF, SLV, which is an ETF, exchange traded fund, it's just a concoction made out
Okay.
of thin air.
Okay.
This that claims to have gold in the deposits. They
I
actually
see.
don't.
So it's
They
like the
only
U.S.
have.
economy.
It's like the U.S.
Like
banking system.
allegedly Fort Knox has gold, but like you said, we won't get too conspiratorial, like whatever. But
That's right.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
mean, no one's been there.
My view actually is that America is super smart and they actually
Okay.
do have the gold. That's my view. And
That's
America
possible.
is
I am big on
yes,
America. I will say that. We'll leave that
yes,
for another episode, but
yes.
that
We
is
will leave that for
possible.
another episode. Yeah,
Okay.
I think America still is in control. So I'm balanced this way.
Interesting. Okay.
You can either go this way, you can go this way.
I like
I
that.
see tea leaves on both sides,
I like
and
that.
I believe that there's a group inside that
Okay.
has full control of where America is going, where the hegemonic nation of America is going, and it's
Sure.
going down.
Okay.
But in fact, if you read Yamashita's Gold, there's a book
Mm.
called Gold Warriors. Excellent
Mm.
read. And they basically stole all the gold from China via Japan. So Japan came and stole the gold,
What?
and then they bombed Japan during Hiroshima, and they took all of the gold that Japan stole from China during the Nanking Wars, and they
Wow.
just went these bunkers that were full of gold, and they just brought it over.
See, now that
So
makes
it's
I
just
never understood Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but now,
I
okay, that makes perfect sense.
I think that America has the gold. They're being super mum about it.
Wow.
And when we go to a gold standard,
Okay.
which I believe, again, I cannot tell the future.
Sure.
Again,
Nobody can.
you read the tea
Yeah.
leaves, and you basically say, okay, I think this is where we think it's going.
Yeah.
But
And that's just the expression. Obviously, we I don't think reading tea leaves is actually not, good,
yeah,
but the expression of it, absolutely.
evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
To see
as a
the
matter of
writing at the
saying.
wall, as you said, basically.
That's right.
So basically, the tide is shifting, and it's going to gold is. But I thought that like Bitcoin and like digital currency is going to be the standard. So isn't it that or commodities?
So
Commodities are just like real stuff, right?
in 2008 or 9, I was on a trip in Chile,
Okay.
and I was with alternative thinkers like myself.
Sure.
We have it's like a club. It's like a group of people that come together, and they invest according to the von Mises Institute. Gold as money crowd.
Which institute?
Sound von Mises, Ludwig
What's okay.
von Mises.
Okay.
It's the Austrian School of Economics.
Oh,
It's
Austria, sign me
another
up. They
it's
have
an
good
it's
chocolate.
Absolutely. Okay. They do have good chocolate. Yeah. So it's a sound money way of thinking that
Okay.
got broken in 1970 during the Nixon era. So
Wow.
when the separation of gold occurred, at
Okay.
that time, going back to your crypto question, somebody
Sure.
begged me. They
Hmm.
begged me. They said, "Buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the future." And
Okay.
I was like,
Oh, what was this?
should I put? This
2008?
was in 2000 and actually it was 2011.
And this was
2011.
before Bitcoin had like taken off, right?
Way before. Bitcoin was less than a
Oh,
dollar.
tell
Bitcoin
me
was
you
around
listened
a
to
dollar.
them. Tell me you listened to them and you bought $1,000. Oh.
I was about to do it, but anyway, it didn't happen.
Anyway,
It,
Qadr,
it
yeah.
didn't happen. Yeah,
So
alhamdulillah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll do that.
I was a buyer of silver, and I
Sure.
believed in silver, and that's what I
Okay.
thought. And silver was still rising at
Yeah.
that point, and so I was thinking my. So the reason why I wasn't a buyer of Bitcoin, which
Hmm.
was basically, in my view, money out of thin air,
Okay.
literally. So
Sure.
in Islam, money is
Yeah.
defined as something fungible. It has to have
Okay.
value, or not
Right.
money. You exchange with things that have intrinsic value. The
Sure.
first test for me for
Hmm.
Bitcoin and crypto was it didn't, and it still doesn't have intrinsic value.
So let me just push back on that a second because so I was in the emerging tech like group in my law firm. They are like, okay, research this whole stuff that's coming out. And I think we have to distinguish between cryptocurrency, which uses technology, and blockchain technology itself. So, but when you talk about things like Ethereum and XRP and things like that, I mean, don't they have a utility and therefore an intrinsic value? And again, we'll have to bring on like a knowledgeable person, like a scholar and all that, to really kind of work through these things. But just from
Yeah,
a layperson's perspective, I don't, there's things like Dogecoin, right? Which is like that is basically just psychological joking around, and like I don't think anything like that is like serious. But then there's things like I told you, like XRP and Ethereum, which I do like. That's actually the future. I mean, Walmart is buying this for their supply chains. They're already using it. These international banks are already using it. It's a matter
yeah.
of privacy and decentralization and basically upgraded technology, which I do feel has utility.
It's a very complicated question,
Right.
and there are many permutations to this. At the end of the day, for me, and in Islamic terms, what I've learned about sound money or
Okay.
sound value and
Sure.
intrinsic value is that you have to touch it. You can't touch a cryptocurrency.
Well, that's the thing that honestly, here's
It,
really
it
I
has
think the
utility.
problem.
So there's
Yeah.
utility, there's technology. So
Sure.
there's technology, there's a process. Project management, the MS Project is
Yeah.
a software program that you cannot touch. But I'm not going to trade it with you for dates. I'm not
Well,
going to
here's the
trade it for
thing,
you.
but I think that's why again, first of all, I'm speaking way out of turn here, but second of all, it's like it's like people talk about this like with bid'ah, right? The bid'ah police, bid'ah, right?
Mm,
Because they say, oh, that's not in the Quran and Sunnah, but that's not what bid'ah is. First of all, there's good bid'ah, there's good innovation, right?
100%.
And then there's negative innovation, which negative innovation isn't that it's exactly found in the Quran and Sunnah. It's not from the Quran and Sunnah, right? It's not within the
100%.
actual and so that's really where here's the problem. You either have really great scholars who are very knowledgeable in this, but don't really understand the technology or what's coming out. Because I'm telling you, I literally study this. It takes a lot. You have to invest a lot of time. And there are some people. There's a guy, Joe Bradford. I think that he's like really knowledgeable in economics. I don't know if he does crypto, but I know that around here in Orlando, he's great. But besides that, there's very hard to find somebody who actually really understands technology, or they're the other way. They really understand technology, but they haven't spent the 8 years in schooling and learning the balagha and
Oh,
the
100%.
grammar and the dean knowledge you
It was
need.
the same. It was the same thing with me. I remember approaching a scholar, Abdullah Adhami, actually, and I was working in mortgage-backed securities, and I had a problem with that
Right.
because I'm recording interest. I'm doing
Mhm.
something. I'm doing this. So we had a conversation, and I'm not going to get into details of that conversation
Sure.
because again, there are many permutations to this, but it's more complex than and you're exactly right. You're exactly right. A scholar who just knows the Quran and Sunnah and has no experience with mortgage-backed securities or cryptocurrency is not going to be able to um, opine or give a verdict on whether this is
Right.
halal or haram.
Exactly.
It requires more study, and that's why I'm pausing from
So
saying that
fair.
it is disallowed.
But
I'm not saying there's,
to your point,
but
I mean this. Yeah.
at that time, I had decided to step back, and I continued to step back until recently.
Well, and I think that the Sahaba used to stay, I think they say the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, like they used to stay away from 9/10 of the
Yeah.
halal from fear of falling into
Right.
the haram. So there is something to be said about that. My own personal
Yes.
sheikh, when I asked him about cryptocurrency, he did say stay away. So I do want to follow up with him about that conversation. We will
Yes.
um get really into that. But let's bring it back to, future just as a preview. I think XRP is great. This is all us, by the
Yes.
way. We're not giving any financial advice. We're just
That's
kind of
right.
two Muslim brothers
It's
like.
entertainment purposes only.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also just to share. I mean, at the end of the day, like you
Exactly.
can't have these conversations. And so it's good to talk about it. It's very important. So I do want to bring it back though to silver, right? Because it sounds like to me, once we set aside the halal haram conversation, cryptocurrency and blockchain in general is more volatile. So it seems like, let's say if we can find a permissible use of, like, let's say we do say that, okay, we get a scholar who really understands it, says XRP is good. We can put some money in that. That may be something that is going to go from here and shoot up quick. But it sounds like it's also less predictable, less reliable. Whereas something like silver, it's almost there's no sure bets in the world, but it's almost a more sure bet, and over the long term, it's the new real estate in a sense, where in real estate, if you've been paying attention in the last 20 years, every 5 years it doubles. Like if you're looking, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
is that, do I have the right understanding on that?
Um, I wouldn't call it the new real estate per se. I personally wouldn't term it that way. I understand what you're
Okay.
saying.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. No. No. Actually, yes. In the manner that you said it, in the fashion that you said it, yes, you're right. It is a new real estate cycle.
Right.
That's what you're trying to say. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
The the misgivings of crypto or not
Right.
versus silver or not. There are reasons why one would go into one or the other, and
Okay.
so yeah,
So
I've,
what? So now, okay, fast forward. We can get into the details more. I don't want to. Let's try to, keep it in 10 minutes here, and then
yeah.
we'll kind of talk about this stuff a little bit more. But basically, you saw the writing on the wall, 2008, but it was a little too soon, maybe, for the radical change that you see coming. And now it feels like we are closer to that. And so buy silver,
Mhm.
and then you mentioned this whole thing of like, well, don't buy silver in the air, don't buy the idea of silver, right? So
That's
tell
right.
me how we should go about this practically speaking, and also where can I buy this stuff?
Yeah. Again, not financial advice. This is for
Exactly.
entertainment purposes only. We're
Sure.
not licensed here. This is what I'm
Exactly.
doing. This is what
Okay,
I'm doing.
exactly, that's
And
what I'm
and
interested in.
yeah, and the reason why I'm doing this is because of this massive uncertainty that has encroached on us in the world, economically speaking, financially speaking, politically speaking. We have absolutely no idea what's going on. We're out of control. And so
Sure.
during times of uncertainty, and again, there are other, again, more than tea leaves, the evidence, the massive accumulation that's been going on by the central banks of gold. 2022 was the record year in almost 50 years, perhaps even longer, ever.
Wow.
The most accumulation of gold by central banks globally, as a and it being there's a new standard that came out. It's called Basel III, where
Okay.
it basically said gold was never considered value
Hmm.
20 years ago on in the bank's books. It was
Wow.
considered a tier three asset. It was never valued as part of the bank's
Year
value.
three.
Yes, tier three. And
That's hilarious.
recently, Basel III, I think last year, January 1st,
Okay.
Basel III went into implementation, and
Mhm.
it reclassified gold as a tier one security or commodity.
Why do I feel like the economy and these banks are like that game where you watch with the cups and they keep moving and the ball's there? It's
But
just
but that's what is potentially coming to an end. And
they're gonna show
and
us
and
that the ball that everyone has nothing in it, and the one that they have
and
has the
and
ball in it.
and there's this much there's this much wealth in the world,
Okay.
equity wise, but
Okay.
there's 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more debt in the world. And
Mm,
so in order to revalue this debt, it's in the
okay.
quadrillions of dollars. In
Yeah.
order,
Wow.
and these numbers, they're
Yeah.
so
There's
large, they don't even
just
make any sense. They're
exactly.
incomprehensible.
Sure.
The only way they can do it is if they do a revaluation of gold. I'm not going to say the only way. Actually, I should refrain from
Sure.
saying
Sure.
declarative words, because they can play around with crypto a little bit. And I see a scenario where they do some base of a cryptocurrency, and as we go to a digital currency. So when I say crypto, or when we talk about crypto, it
Mhm.
basically means digital. It's in the
Okay.
digital space. So
So basic.
cryptocurrency means
Yeah.
digital space. So
So
just to
yeah.
just to finish this thought, just to finish
Sure.
this one
Sure.
thought, um, the evidence is that nations, central banks, have started accumulating gold in record amounts.
Mhm.
For me, it is there's a saying, but I forget what it escapes me right now. But there's a phrase that basically goes: central banks buy gold, and the people buy silver. And so something is happening at that level, and for us to prepare for ourselves, and there's this massive debt blob in the world, in
Okay.
America and across the world, that needs to be
Right.
taken care of.
Sure.
And one of the ways it can be taken care of is by a revaluation of gold to $20,000, $30,000, and all the debt evaporates.
What do
And
you mean that evaporates?
they basically revalue a new currency into gold. They create a new currency, could be a digital currency. That's a new currency. It's backed by gold. Gold gets
Oh.
revalued, and all the
Okay.
debt disappears. The dollar drops against the new gold standard. And so
So
the
yeah.
the, the actual level is 80,000. That's the actual level.
Level of
The
what?
actual the number of ounces of gold
Okay.
in America,
Okay.
for it to take over, for it to basically turn its debt into zero,
Hmm.
or pay off its debt and go 1 to 1, the gold would have to be revalued to 80,000 in order for it to pay off its debt.
Mm.
So it's so that is one of their ways out,
Of this
but
debt
of
to
this
make.
debt,
Okay. To
to
wave the
to
magic
reval
gold wand.
to
So
to
basically say
and
no more dollar, now digital currency, and that's backed by gold. And here's the new. We're resetting basically.
and
Hasn't this been
and
called the
the
Great
US dollar
Reset?
and the US dollar is worth 10 times less. And so
Okay.
they just pay off all of that debt,
Oh. Yeah.
all of those US dollar based debt,
Yeah.
with the gold standard. And so
You actually taking economics.
if you
Yeah.
own gold, or if you own silver, which is basically, they're just two different commodities, but they're both considered precious metal money
Okay.
throughout history. If
Yeah.
if if gold is slightly out, it's expensive.
Hmm.
It has historical precedence of being confiscated,
Sure.
and that's why I'm more of a silver guy. And
Okay. Oh.
silver is considered money. It's
Hmm.
considered the people's money. And typically, if you own silver, you will also benefit in the same way, if not more, because silver's ratio to gold right now in the financial markets is completely out of whack. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is that if you mine gold, for every
Mhm.
ounce of gold that's pulled out of the ground, there's the number is 15 ounces of silver. So for 1 ounce of gold, there's 15 ounces of silver that's pulled out. And so that's the ratio. But that's
Mm.
the ratio of gold in the Earth's crust. But
Okay.
in reality, the price today is gold is at 2,000 and change, and
Hmm.
silver is at 24 and change. That's a 1 to about 80 ratio. I
Oh.
don't know the exact number, 1 to 80. So
2 and
so
24, you
that
said?
means, sorry, yeah, $24.
2024, 24. Oh, $24. Oh, okay. Okay.
$24.
Oh,
So
wow.
that
Okay.
means so that means if gold rises and we go to a gold standard, silver is
Yeah,
going to rise faster. So
I
you'll
see.
the return on silver will be faster. And
Okay.
so that's why I personally am a buyer of silver, and I like to touch money. And
That's what
in
I want to
or
ask you
touch,
about.
yeah. So there's a concept in this. I don't know what the hadith is, or if it's in
Mhm.
the Quran. I
Mhm.
in If you wanted for the transaction to be legal
Mhm.
in gold and silver, or perhaps any commodity, when you make that transaction, you have to touch it.
Mm.
And so when you're purchasing an ETF, you're not touching it. And so it might even be considered
This is an
forbidden.
ETF, by the way.
Exchange
ETF.
it. It's just like a stock.
Okay.
It's just
Okay.
like a stock that you can buy on the stock exchange.
So
But
let me.
it's
Yeah.
basically a fund that's backed by gold or silver or some precious metal.
Okay, so it's a fund on the stock exchange backed by gold and silver. Okay, so two things. One is you don't have to look far to just understand the kind of crisis that the world is in right now. I mean, literally, Google has like the top searches. I always kind of find it kind of hilarious, but also very scary. It's like Ukraine war, this country on fire, this massacre. It's like literally, if you try to think of more absurd scenarios, you cannot. And every day that's the top five on like Google searches. So to me, again, that's kind of, showing the state that we're in. The other thing I want to say is, so tell me some practical things. Okay. I understand, and generally that, it's almost time is cyclical, right? We're going kind of full circle in a way, and a lot of people are going back to this barter economy. Which, by the way, I've been doing that personally in my life. You want to talk about personal
Wow.
experience? Like, because I have legal services. I'm a lawyer, alhamdulillah. And so, but I get all these services, like someone to come do work on my yard, and I'll exchange with them, and I'll tell them, hey, I need this. Your services are kind of expensive. You need your contract looked at. Let me knock out your contract, and why don't you knock 1,500 off your the work you're gonna do? Deal. So to
Yeah,
me, I actually have that vision. Probably a bad idea to share this with everyone. Someone might steal it, but hey, if you do it, at least it's out there. That's what I really want.
it's great. No,
Back to the barter, right?
yeah. There's a massive trend in that area. The community that I live in right now in Austin, Texas, on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, is also the same thing. They've got Telegram groups that have set up, and we're entering into a barter era. I do believe that we're entering into a barter era, and if you don't have the skill, let's say you don't have the skill, like
Okay.
I'm not an electrician,
Sure.
but I want electrical services, and the only thing I have is something that they will value.
Right.
And in the future, in that barter economy, silver and gold will be of high value,
That's the
not
medium,
not a crypto.
not a crypto.
How are you going to
Yeah.
pay a farmer for
Mm.
food in
Uh-huh.
crypto?
I guess that's a good question, but unless you pay them in crypto because that's what they use to buy stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I
And by
mean,
the way, are there even going to be farmers in the future? But that's another episode too.
that's another episode. We'll talk about that.
So,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So okay, so basically, how can I get some real silver? Like, are there sites out there? What do I do?
yeah, and we can go into again another episode in great detail on how to do it. But so if you want to purchase silver, you can purchase it privately, or you can purchase it through a dealer, or you can purchase it through a bank. There's a number of different ways to do it. The most common way to purchase precious metals, silver. Let's just talk about silver, and it is the same for gold.
Okay.
Um, the most common way is through a dealer or a mint.
Okay. Right.
So it depends also where you're located. I believe you're in Florida. I actually do a
Right.
lot of my purchases in Florida because there's a mint there.
Nice.
It's called the Golden State Mint, and they have
Okay.
some of the cheapest silver prices available.
What's it called again?
So, Golden State Mint,
Golden State,
Mint.
Golden State Mint.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
.com. Yeah.
.com.
.com.
Okay. Okay.
So I have done most of my purchases. I would say 80 to 90% of my purchases through a dealer.
Okay.
And there are various dealers. We can list them below. There are various dealers that I use. You have to price shop. It's like going
Okay.
to an Indian is going to an Indian jewelry store when you're having a
Yeah.
wedding.
Yeah.
You're going to go from one to another to another to another, and you price shop. It's exactly the same thing
I went
here.
to Macy's. I messed up.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that. And the banks also will gouge you. And
Okay.
because this market is so unknown, and because
Yeah.
people don't know how to actually buy it, whenever the dealer says, "Oh, buy it," they're fantastic salespeople, by the way. Whenever
Mm.
you'll end up paying too much for it,
Okay.
and you really have to shop around. And so let me just mention what is price. How do you know
Sure.
what the price of
Yeah,
silver is?
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
exactly.
So there's a quoted price online. If you go and you Google price of silver,
Okay.
you'll get typically what you'll get, if not from a dealer.
Hmm.
You'll get, but every single dealer has the spot price on. It's called spot. Okay,
Okay.
it's the current price of the market silver.
Sure.
as it's traded today in the commodities market. And so you'll get that price, okay? And that's called a spot price. So let's just say it's $24. But you'll never be able to buy silver for $24 wherever you go, unless you're JP Morgan. Maybe
Okay.
then you'll be able to purchase it because you're transacting in hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So you're going to go to a dealer, and the dealer is going to quote you a premium over spot.
Okay.
So usually I have made purchases a dollar over spot. So if it's $24 for $25, I've bought silver for 50 cents over spot. If it's on a
Okay.
good, if it's a really good, if the scenario is there, and
Sure.
there's various reasons why. If the market is hot, the premiums begin to rise.
Right. Right.
So, for instance, right now, if you were to purchase an American Gold Eagle,
Yeah.
you're around $12 to $20 over spot
For gold.
for a
For
silver coin. So, in other
oh,
words,
there's a what you
yeah,
said American Gold Eagle though. What is that? That's another
American
site.
Silver Eagle, American Silver Eagle.
That's another site.
Sorry, no. If you so American Silver Eagle is a type of coin.
Oh, so that's what I was going to ask you. That's my next question. Am I going to get like, the bags with the silver? Am I talking coins? I really don't know this stuff. So what should I be
Okay,
expecting in the mail?
yeah. So let's say you want to buy silver. Let's just
Okay.
walk through a full scenario. Let's say I
Sure.
want to go and buy silver.
Okay.
I have to determine first, what do I want to buy? Do I want to buy
Okay.
a 1 ounce coin? Do I want to buy a 5 ounce coin? Or do I want to buy a 100 ounce bar? Or do I want to buy a 1,000 ounce bar? So again, if your net worth is less than $100,000, you're going
Yeah.
to want something. If your net worth is over $100 million or over $5 million, you're going to want to put a lot of that wealth. And if you want to take a substantial amount of that wealth and invest it, that your thinking is going to be different, right?
So what
You're
if
going
I
to
just have $0 to $10,000 that I want to invest? Give me like a
perfect.
basic thing that I can buy.
Yeah. So if I had $10,000,
Okay.
what I would do is I would shop around for the
Okay.
lowest premium. So what I would do is I would first say, okay, well, I think because I have so little money to spend, I don't
Mhm.
want to buy big bars. I want to buy as small coins as possible, and I want to shop around for those small coins. Why? Because
Yeah.
it's divisible. It's divisible. You don't want. So let's say in the future,
Oh, I can sell it easier,
silver
basically.
silver is worth $600, and
Okay.
you have 10 ounces of silver. All of a sudden, you have $6,000 in one bar, and
Okay.
you want to go and buy some milk. What are you gonna do
Yeah.
with that bar?
Yeah.
So
Here's my
that's what
six. You have change for this bar?
they're not gonna have. You want the smallest, and so the
I see.
smallest denomination
Okay.
will carry the highest premium.
Oh, I see. Because it's most, I guess you can change it most easily.
That's right. Everybody wants it. It's in demand. Everybody wants the
But
smallest denomination.
can I sell if I did get that 6,000 block of silver, inshallah, bismillah. Can
So
I just sell that and then get whatever the current, currency is and then use that?
yeah,
So
so
why would I pay the higher premium then to get the smaller one?
yeah,
See what
no,
I'm saying?
a time's gonna come where you're gonna want to hold on to that silver,
Okay.
and you want to not change it for anything because no one's gonna have it.
Okay. So we have about a minute left. Give me your
Yes.
closing remarks on this situation.
Wow. Okay. So
Sorry.
I would definitely urge our listeners to purchase silver because of the uncertainty in the world today. Silver is probably, in my opinion, not financial advice.
I was gonna say,
Probably
if you
not.
want, only if you
It
like
is.
silver.
I love silver because of the ratio, because of what is going on in the mining sector, because
Okay.
of history and what's happened in the past with nations that have fallen, and what has happened to people who have owned silver.
Right.
And so that's why I'm a purchaser of silver, and it just feels great. It feels better than the US dollar in
Anything
my
feels
hand.
better than the US dollar at this point. But
Yeah, any
um I
currency for that matter.
right. So alhamdulillah, thank you very much. We are out of time. Inshallah, we will pick
Awesome.
this up next time. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Inshallah, have a
Same
great
here.
iftar and a great day.
Thank you too.
Yo, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.